that Mayo experience.
2026 Cognizant Classic Picks, research, and early look, plus some special stuff. You can always hit the time codes, move yourself around, and of course, sub to Mayo Media Network. Turn on them notifications. Give me your winner down in the comment section. Try to make it not the most obvious choice because this is a very weak field. And hopefully we have some money extra money at least, to wager on this tournament. We got some runners. We got a runner over in Thailand. She's in first place. Rory's the betting favorite. As of the time that I'm doing this, maybe Fitz can stage a comeback. After all the bad luck that I feel like we've gone through for 5 weeks, it'd be nice to get some good luck on our sides. And hopefully it all comes down at once. So the Cognizant Classic this year, the field is down to 121 players from 140 players. That's just how they're doing business on the PGA Tour right now. And I know that everyone is pretty bummed out after they saw this field because it shouldn't be shocking. But there are very few good players in this field. We'll get to that in a minute. But it's an unfortunate schedule placement. And that was the end of Honda as the title sponsor, and things have only gotten worse for an event that I really used to enjoy. But that's just the way that the schedule broke this year in particular, because Phoenix and Pebble Beach got flipped because Phoenix always needs to be right around where the Super Bowl is. So it got bumped back a week. Pebble Beach got pushed forward a week, or the other way around. Thus meaning you had Pebble Beach and Riv back-to-back weeks. You have this week, and then next week is another signature event. Then the Players' Championship is right after it. So if there's any logical spot in order to take a break, this would be it. And players, just take a look at the money. Bay Hill next week, $20 million purse. The Players, $25 million purse. Compare that to the Cognizant, where it's $9.2 million, and it's probably incentive enough to not come to Florida early. Maybe take a week reprieve, because guys have been playing a lot of golf right now. It's gotten so bad that even the locks to play this event like a month ago, Jake Knapp and Pearson Coody in particular, have decided not to play in the field because they got into the signature events because they played too well, thus blowing up a ton of my underdog best ball teams. More on that in a bit, but I don't say this to complain. I actually like this because I'm trying to set the expectation for you that this is kind of a goober event. I love this break from the same field that we just saw for the past 2 weeks and are going to see again the next 2 weeks. Give me some variance. Give me some fun. Unfortunately, this course isn't quite what it used to be, and we'll talk about that for a second. So here's who's in the field. Mr. Cognizant himself, despite never having won. Shane Lowry's here for the 7th straight year. Ben Griffin, Ryan Gerard, Adam Scott, Aaron Rye, Jacob Bridgman, who's on a heater, and he was T2 at this course last year. Thor Bjornsson, Homa, any Danish player you can name is probably in the field too. Brooks is making his 3rd start of the season. Brooks has lost 1.18 strokes putting per round in his 2 starts since returning to the PGA Tour, by the way. And it's not only that the signature events have made this the most obvious bye week for the Tour's best players, there's also another maybe unintended consequence that happened with this tournament, because so many international players make Florida their U.S. home that PGA National was always the most logical choice for a lot of these guys playing their first event. Like, we used to get Norin and Tommy and Lowry and Fitz and all of these guys, but because the signature events got moved to the previous 2 weeks, they all had to come over early anyway. TGL kind of did this as well, that usually guys would play the first 6 or so weeks, 3 or 4 tournaments over in Europe or somewhere internationally. Then they would come over to Florida, make this their event before Bay Hill got going, so they could be in the swing of things, get acclimated to the time, the conditions, and have all of that run through. So that's what we're looking at for this year. Daniel Berger was a late add into the field. Michael Kim was a late withdraw from this field as of the time of I'm recording this. Maybe, listen, if Bridgman ends up winning, he might not play either, thus blowing up my underdog teams even more. This is what I wanted to talk about, because a person that I found on Twitter made a site for the best ball scramble tournaments. Let's take a look at that right now. bb-golf.com. I'm assuming that means best ball is where you can find all of this. It's a free site as of right now, although it has pretty good stuff. You can see all of the teams. This is just for the underdog scramble best ball tournament. And I'll type in my name, see how I'm doing. We'll search my name on the leaderboard. I guess I can just go to users, make that easier on myself. And we will search by, see if we can find here. There's the search bar, the PME. All right, I drafted 148 teams. 40 of them are now advancing. I had 47 coming into the week. Only 40 of them are getting through. I'm getting kind of beat up, and everything that I thought was going to go my way at the Cognizant kind of got blowed up because I drafted Cootie and Knapp. Knapp committed to playing this tournament before the year started. He said he was going to show up. He shot a 59 here once as well. So I drafted a ton of Knapp, and I drafted a ton of Cootie because I like both of their opportunities this year. I thought they'd be good. Unfortunately, they've been too good, and now they're not playing in this tournament, thus putting me way behind the 8 ball. So you can see what's going on. You can see where you're at, how far you're behind, how far that you're up in some of these tournaments. And you can see the number of exposure. Fortunately, Daniel Berger ended up joining this field back again because he's my most owned player, thus giving me a few more. And we'll see when that updates. So I have Berger, Cootie, so Straka's not playing. Gerard is playing. So 3 of my top owned guys, they're all playing. And then you have to really go down. If Michael Kim had played, that would have been nice. I believe Smalley's in the field. Bridgman's playing right now. Pendrith is in the field. So that's helpful. But this is what I really thought was cool. If you go to tournaments, you can click on the Cognizant that's already uploaded for next week. And you can see, here are the players for right now, like everyone in this event. Like, how many teams have at least 6 guys playing this week? Only 14%. That's not even me. I'm like down here, like 4 and 5 are where I'm at, because you can take a look at that right now too. If you compare it to the PME, boom, let's throw that in. You can see me versus what the field. So I'm killing people on 4 right now. So I have 30% of my teams have 4 guys going. Only around 20% have 5, only 11% have 6. Apparently I have 2% of teams that have 7, which is still below the field. So hopefully I drew the right luck in the field and or my guys actually end up making the cut. I thought this was really cool. If you're not on Underdog, they actually just updated their payout structure as well in the Pick'em game. They went from 3x to 3.5x and 6x to 6.5x. So they've boosted their odds quite a bit in the Pick'em game. You can get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000 if you go use code Mayo right now. And we will be doing some drafts. We'll be doing everything for the players. There's majors drafts to come through. So you really want to be on it. And this site is super cool. Recommend everyone check it out. bb-golf.com if you're in this tournament or you just want to learn a little bit more about the Giant Scramble tournament. If I can get 40 teams through, I'm going to be very happy, honestly. Like around a 30% advance rate is actually quite good, I think, at least. And we'll see how I end up doing. You saw that Brian Harman was one of my most owned guys as well, and I drafted him specifically for the second round of this tournament because I have a very good feeling that he'll play Valspar and Valero. If he does not play those 2 events, I'm kind of screwed. It's the only reason I have Brian Harman is to fill out spots in specifically those 2 fields. And then I feel very good about round 3 and 4 because I did draft around those. I felt like I had to piece together more. Hopefully Cootie plays the Texas events. He's a Texas guy. If he plays the Texas events, I could get bailed out that way too. But just my strategy of just advancing as many teams as possible and then letting it fall a little bit is what I did last year, and I got eliminated in round 2 a lot. This year, I still concentrated mostly on getting my teams through in the Underdog Scramble. But at the same time, I did start to plan out specifically round 4 and then work backwards from there, because even if I get 2 teams into the final, 1 team into the final, I want to make sure that it's situated properly in order to make a run at winning the $50,000 overall prize. It's a fun game to figure out. This site makes things very easy. Once again, bbgolf.com. The other thing that I wanted to go through is something really cool that happened on Saturday morning pertaining to something I went over on last week's show, which was hole number 10. You can see this penis-shaped pin placement where, if you watch out for the banjo string. If you haven't watched Thursday's show, I highly recommend it. Me, Emerson, and Cam kind of shot the shit for about an hour and a half. Many are saying it's the funniest show that we've ever did. It might not be your vibe, but if that's the vibe that you like about this show, it is a show absolutely for you. I'm running out a new Thursday show where I just have fun people that I know from around the industry. We talk about whatever, and it's going to be a lot of fun. You can listen to it at any point. It's not time sensitive. You can listen to it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You got time to kill on the weekend? You should tune in to the Pat Mayo Experience on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Just download those episodes, all right? Apple, Spotify. You can check out the video version up on YouTube as well. But here's what happened. So someone asked me, I caught your live betting strategy for hole number 10, one of your shows this week. Any other holes offer value? I didn't find any that offered value, but I continued to go with number 10. And here's what X sucks. On social media sucks, except for at times like this, because I thought this was really interesting. So Clevey at Poon Cleaver responded, the pin was similar in round 3 in 2020. 24, where the field got a 43% birdie or better rate. If you can get plus 150 birdie or better on each of the players, I'd look into that. I thought that was a really cool idea. So I went back and looked back again to see when this pin placement popped up more often. So I found it. So it was, you can see here, it was around 45% in 2023 with this pin near the front. That's not the exact pin location, but it's pretty close. And that's a pretty good price, getting right around 43% birdie or better. I went back with the exact pin position that we saw in 2023, and it was an even higher percentage. It was 47% birdie or better that year, thus making that plus 150 a really, really good price if you just simply spam the board and bet everyone. Now, you still need guys to make putts, this we know. And then Breezeball responded that an interesting little ladder opportunity on DK. I had to call up a friend who lives in a DK state so I could bet all of these. And I did bet all of these. I gave $1,000. I came up with the allocation to bet on each of these to try to see what we can get. Because over 15.5, I think it's already hit by the time that I'm recording this, or at least it's pretty close. And half the field hasn't played it yet. But as he pointed out, over 18.5 would be a 36.5 birdie or better percentage today. The field was 40% yesterday at a tougher pin. So the 18.5 was paying plus 102. So that was plus money. And you'd have to have a disastrously bad day for that not to come through at 18.5. Guys would have to miss a ton of putts or just play horribly, or the conditions would have to be bad. And I looked at the conditions. They weren't bad going into the round, whereas you can get almost 5-1 on over 23.5. Now, I played that as well. That is still unlikely to hit. And then here, so Clevey comes back that he ran the odds on all of this. The true odds for birdie or better of 43% and a birdie or better of 45% with 51 players in the field, because that's how many players made the cut. This is awesome. This all happened like in a 10-minute stretch, and you're like, whoa, here we go. So here's the line. Let's say it is, let's be optimistic here. 45%. What is the line? So 15.5, the true odds of it passing 15.5, which was minus 265, are 98%. So huge EV on that. But the higher you go down, like in order to pass the 23.5, the almost 5-1 pricing, the true odds on that should be right around plus 130. It was plus 485. Minus 121 were the actual odds on 22.5. Minus 121 are the odds that should be for the 22.5, and it was priced at plus 360. 21.5 should have been priced at almost minus 200. It was plus 270. Now, I only bring this up, and here's how it's going in real time if you guys do want to know. Let's see here. It's not going great because the guys are missing really short putts, which sucks. It's still playing below par, so we have 9 birdies, 10 pars, and 4 bogeys. So 9 of 23 so far have made bogey or better. So 9 of 23 is 39%. So it's well lower, but all the guys who are playing the best golf have not got to this hole yet. So if they can start piling it up in an later on, we can get back to that number. But even at 39%, 39% birdie or better rate would be what? 39%. So, you'd be right around that 17 number, which is, you still end up on top of it if you spread your money around properly. But if you get a late rush and guys actually start making 3-foot putts, then we'd be doing a lot better on this right now. And it's not to say that this, I think that statistically, this was a really good bet to go into. And I only bring this up, and maybe this market will be killed going forward, and maybe we'll all lose on it, because it's not free money. It's just saying that the odds are stacked in your favor to make it. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to come true and actually present. These guys still actually have to play, and if you keep missing 3-foot putts, you're not going to do it whatsoever. You're going to lose the bets. But I do think that there are certain circumstances just shopping around in different golf markets where you can find things like this to your advantage. This is one of the great things about having so many legalized sports books, where because they're in competition for your dollar to you to play on their site, that they will offer up a whole bunch of markets. And especially when you're not dealing with football, you're dealing with other sports, golf in particular here, is that there's just so many markets that sometimes they don't keep track of it. This happened on Bet365 about a year and a half ago, where we had the lock of the year bet week after week after week until they finally caught on to it. It was players under par or players under X for a certain tournament, and the numbers were just way off. They were offering us like 12 guys, and like 40 would end up making below the number that they were going for, and those were even money bets on each side. So there's always a little bit. It happens 2-3 times a year, whatever it might be. I remember, I don't want to say the name of the site. It was another pick'em site, but at that that time, they were offering hole props at Bay Hill on hole number 16, and everyone was either making birdie or eagle on the pin placement, and they were just offering 4.5, higher or lower on 4.5, and just came in and scooped everything they have. I obviously didn't wipe them out. That site is still doing well. Underdog is still doing well, but we never saw that market again on that hole. So if you're Johnny on the spot and you can find some of these markets, whether it works out or not, listen, the guys have to play, like I mentioned, but this is the sort of gambling opportunity that everyone should be looking for to try to stack the odds in your favor. Now, after the fact, your guys are going to watch this, and it's probably going to be just the worst bet you could have ever made. The percentages did not dictate that. The percentages were wildly in our favor. Chalk it up to human error of these players, but these are the sort of situations that you should be looking for. Now, I put this out on Twitter, so this market is probably nuked for the time being. We found this with the first round leader market. I think it was in Phoenix where the without Scotty market actually somehow paid better than the Scotty market. It was just an error on the site's part. They just did not price those off markets properly. Always be searching around for this stuff. Okay? When we come back from the break, I'll be talking about PGA National, the course, the changes, and why this course is different. So please stay tuned. Look, I'll be straight with you. We talk all the time about getting better at work, sports, in life, whatever it might be. But most guys ignore the one thing that actually drives all of it: your head. Therapy isn't a weakness, it's a tool. I've seen it help guys deal with work stress, family stuff, breakups, addictions, whatever it might be. Just getting unstuck when everything feels heavy. The problem? It's usually a pain to get started. Long wait list, huge cost, total hassle, you know the deal. That's why Rula is different. Rula makes therapy simple, affordable, and fast. They work with most major insurance plans, and sessions can cost as little as $15. You answer a few quick questions, they match you with a licensed vetted therapist that actually fits what you need, and you can be talking to someone as soon as the next day. No weeks of waiting, no guessing if you pick the right person. If you've been putting this off, stop! Go to Rula.com/Mayo and get started today. That's RULA.com/Mayo. Once again, that's Rula.com/Mayo. Take the first step. Take control of your mental health. The new year's here, and if you're like me, you're gonna want to get your house back on track. Considering I've been through 8 weeks of renovations, my house still isn't back on track, but I do need some new stuff. That's where WAYFAIR came into play and was quite handy, and had some awesome stuff. WAYFAIR is basically a one-stop shop for everything your home needs. We got new appliances, and now we need crap in the kitchen that matches that stuff. Or so I was told. Go on to WAYFAIR, get it. Stuff to put in the drawers to separate everything with our new cabinets, also on WAYFAIR. Complete game changer. It's been awesome. And I haven't had to go to the store. I've just been able to do it from home, which I find is a big win for me. Get organized, refreshed, and back on track for the new year for way less. So head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com, WAYFAIR. Every style, every home. PGA National, the championship course. 71 is the par, 7,223 yards is the yardage. Tiff Eagle Bermuda grass greens, 7,000 square foot greens, 60 bunkers, 14 holes with water in play, and this used to be a hard course, but ain't no more. Par threes, 4 of them, 200 yards on average for the 6 hardest holes on the course. The par fours, 11 of them, 430 yards on average. 4 of the 6 most difficult par fours come on the back 9, and then the par fives, 548 yards, the 3 easiest holes on the course. Number 10 has an eagle rate that is more than double its over par rate, 5% to 2.4%. The water and sand combo that once made this an extremely difficult scrambling course have changed over time. There was a $100 million renovation to the property in 2022. Most of that went into the resort itself because now the dining and the hotel rooms are very nice if you're going to stay there, but that's not especially relevant. But the overseed most definitely is. Before 2023, the course generally only overseeded the rough, leaving the fairways with a more dormant and penal Bermuda grass. The change to full ryegrass overseed was done to produce greener, softer, and more consistent playing surfaces, and guess what? It worked. And then the guy started tearing up this course. Historically, the green and regulation rate was right around 60%. That was against the tour average of 66%, and the scrambling percentage was just 55% for the field. The past 2 years, green and regulation rates are now well above tour average, with guys hitting over 70% of greens, and the scrambling rate jumped from 53% in 2021 and 2022 to 61% a year ago, above tour average, which is absolutely mental. It's mental, people, for the PGA National with so much ubiquitous water off the tee. Until these changes were made, the cut line had never been below par. Some years, +6 was good enough to see the weekend. The last 2 years, -4 wasn't good enough to make the cut. Sungjae Im won this event in 2020 at -6. The past 2 years, -4. Not good enough to see the weekend. The water is still omnipresent. It just lurks like a mysterious neighbor in a kid's movie. Except the water at PGA National doesn't have a secret heart of gold. It's built on squares, on scorecards. Bad scores are still out there. There are 2 ungodly difficult stretches on this course. Plural. 2 separate stretches. They've gotten easier. Has the course have gotten easier, but this is still where the danger rests. The Bear Trap, you know it, 15, 16, and 17. It's got its own dedicated TV feed, or at least it used to. I have no idea about this year. It plays pretty tough. Holes 5, 6, and 7, still pretty tough itself. Since 2007, each troika has finished an almost identical .63 over par, give or take a few strokes on either side. That puts them both into the top 10 of most difficult 3-hole stretches on the PGA Tour. You can make birdies on them now, though, which is not something you really ever could have done before, and they were just bogey magnets. Like, for example, it didn't play as tough as it could in like 2022, and in the Bear Trap I'm talking about here. The field was a combined +238 for the week, which was down from +277 in 2022. It was an all-time high of +516 in 2018. To show how much easier it's been, the Bear Trap last year played 184 over par. That's like not bad. That's the 6th lowest total to par since 2007. So it's gotten a little bit easier. Unless the wind pops up, it's not going to be it's going to be hard, but it's not going to be super difficult. And it doesn't really look like there's going to be a whole lot of wind coming in this week. So I looked at Thursday, a little bit on Thursday, not too much, but after that, almost nothing. Nothing that I would go out of my way to either wave stack at this point in time. By the time we get to the Wednesday show and I'm talking to Keith and he's down there at the tournament this week, so he can give us some insight to that I probably am not going to be too concerned about the wind. It's time to jump over to the rabbit hole. Betspertsgolf.com/Mayo. Get yourself a discount. All of the course facts for PGA National and the Cognizant Classic are up here right now. It's a short-ish course. Fazio redesign, Jack Nicklaus design, low on the end of bunkers, average scoring conditions. Now quite easy. Greens about average, ryegrass fairways, ryegrass rough because of the overseed. Not a whole lot of rough at this course. In fact, there's more water. It's hard off the tee. It can be a less than driver course, but everything after that gets super easy. The rough penalty is low. Strokes gained approach, average. Green accurate, greens and regulation, easy. Around the green, very easy. Sand, average. Scrambling, easy. Scrambling from the rough, easy. 3-putt avoidance, easy. Par 4 scoring, easy. Par 5 scoring, easy. Par 3 is kind of average. So it's not a course that it once was. You can see the hole-by-hole stuff. Here's the really interesting part of where to dig into here, because you can see the past 5-year average. So 2024, 2025 is when things started getting super easy. And you see that reflected right away, that in 2022, 276 off the tee, 284 last year. Driver usage at an all-time high a year ago at almost 63%. Guys just are not scared to go bombs away at this course anymore. And the holes are like kind of long, but not super long. So if you are hitting driver on some of these longer holes, it shortens them up quickly, thus making them into birdie holes. Driving accuracy didn't really get compromised all that much. It was down a little bit last year at 57% from 64, the high the previous year when driver usage was a lot down. And then you had 60%, but the fact that it's still right around the same realm and guys are hitting driver more often should tell you almost everything you need to know. Green and regulation rate, as I mentioned, for the rolling average for the 6 years is 66%, which is right at tour average. For the last 2 years, 70.2, 70.4, with a low in 2021 of 61.9. That is a massive increase. You can see the scrambling stats as well when you take a look at it around the green. The PGA Tour average is 58.9% scrambling percentage. Last year at this course, 61%. It was 53% in 2021 and 2022. So balls are sticking, shots are more consistent, and we're seeing, even though the quality of field has diminished, scores are just getting markedly lower, and that's not even relative to par, just scoring average in general, because they changed one of the par 4s to a par 5, allowing its number 10 to allow for more eagles, I suppose, helpful with like DraftKings scoring and everything like that. But when you start factoring in maybe that's 4 easier shots, then yeah, maybe that's why the cut line has been a little bit lower at -4. It would be even at that point, which would still be the lowest before they made the score change. So the course is overall playing a lot easier, but that par did change at one of the course. At the rabbit hole, you can always dig in to see where the relative difference at PGA National has been on each of the stats versus your PGA Tour course. As you can see, greens and regulation, much higher here. Shots, approach shots inside 150 yards, a lot higher here. Shots outside 150 yards, negative compared to the other courses. You can see the proximity ranges down here as well before we jump in and try to scout out some players. Not a whole lot of shots from 50 to 100 yards, but it's over-indexed from 100 to 150, 150 to 175, and 175 to 200. 6%, 11%, and 24% higher in each of those buckets. Higher from 225 to 250 as well. I'm guessing there is a par 3 that falls in that range. If I had to guess, that's why you're seeing that. Yeah, there it is. Number 7, you're seeing play at 226 yards. And I'm guessing number 5, which plays at 217, can be bumped up into that bucket as well. That's why you're seeing more from that range than you would see at typical courses, which simply do not feature par 3s of that length. Some do, some don't. Most don't. This one does. That's why you're seeing it. A lot of green. Approach, around the green, putting, everything, just all in the green right now. Taking a look back at last year, Joe Highsmith made the cut on the number and ended up winning by 2 strokes because he made every putt over the course of the weekend. Overall, Joe Highsmith, 6 strokes game putting for the week. Bridgman almost made as many more, and that's what he's doing this week at Riv, by the way, at least through 2 rounds. He has not teed off by the time that I'm talking to you right now, but I think he lost on approach and driving in round number 2 and gained it all chipping and putting. Like, it's not super sustainable. I guess over a 2-round period, maybe it can be, and maybe he can win off the back of that, but it'd be tougher to see. So last year, Highsmith spawned Bridgman, McGreevy, Griffin, Henley, Michael Kim, Knapp, and then Jordan Spieth. It's kind of hilarious that most of these guys went on to either be playing really well this year or have great rest of the seasons. Spawn followed this up in 2 weeks' time with a playoff loss to Rory at the Players. Obviously, he won the U.S. Open. McGreevy played awesome over the fall swing to get himself into the next 10 to qualify for signature events. He's back this week as well. So is Bridgman. Obviously, Bridgman's playing some really good golf. Ben Griffin went on to win 3 times after this. Henley would go on to win the next week. Obviously, Michael Kim played himself into the Masters, ended up winning in France by the end of the year. So it's funny to see how, and obviously Jake Knapp is absolutely killing it this year. He was the leader going into the final day, shot +1, and that was the end of him. But obviously he's played so well so far this season that he's not even playing in this tournament anymore. Austin Eckroat was the winner previous to that in 2024. You can see he did most of it. He hit a bunch of fairways, gained a ton on approach, and made enough putts. It's not like he lit it up putting. He gained fewer than 4 strokes putting. That's it's a lot less than EVR and David Skins, who did pretty well on the greens, over 7 each. Minwoo, if he had just putted a little bit better, probably wins that year. There's Lowry again. He's inside the top 5. Knapp was inside the top 5. Noren, just not getting a lot of guys coming around here. Billy Horschel's played really well in this event over the years. So is Keith Mitchell. So is Kevin Yu. So we'll see how those guys end up doing this week once we kind of jump over and scout out the field, which we can do right now. If you want to, we can hop over to the rabbit hole and start taking a look at the stats. Is Kevin Yu playing? He better be playing, because I drafted so much of him for him to be playing this week, and there he is. I believe he ended up missing the cut, which is kind of like good news. He can get to Florida a little bit earlier. But you can see these are the best names, hottest names in the field coming in. There was a weird thing that I found. This will be in my column, which is in the Mayo Media newsletter. If you're not subbed to the Mayo Media newsletter, most of you are, I'm sure. It's completely free to join, so I don't see why you wouldn't be. It'll get sent directly to your inboxes the moment the Genesis Invitational ends. I'll have it all done up for you. regurgitating a lot and making it more concise, a lot of the information that I gave you during the course of the show, plus anything extra that I found. But Chris Kirk was an outlier when he beat our guy sniffing some cocaine in that playoff when we all had an outright on Eric Cole, and obviously he didn't win. He came second. Cashes each way. That was nice. But with Eric Cole that year, he loses in the playoff to Kirk. Kirk actually had a very strong showing the year before that. He was 7th. He is like the only guy of the past 7 winners who had done anything the year before winning this event. Like Highsmith missed the cut, Austin Eckroat missed the cut, Sung Jae was terrible the year before he won. Just going down the list, all that info will be in it. So, what we should probably be doing is scouting out the guys that, didn't do so well last year, but did play in the event. Let's see who those guys would be. So basically anyone from outside the top 30 that we can bet on this year. Crazy Carl Phillips. We can bet on Carl Phillips. Played some decent golf. Thorbjornsen would fit this equally well. So would Keith Mitchell. Mathieu Pavon is right there. Brian Campbell's probably playing. Velamaki. Matt McCarty, I think, is in the field. Chris Kirk, obviously, he's probably going to be playing again. If he can find himself in. Toasty, there's Hoagie. I don't think Hoagie is playing, however. Guys who missed the cut. Griot's probably going to play. Have him in there. Pendrith missed the cut last year. Having a really nice ball striking week at Riv. So maybe Pendrith would end up being a look of those higher end guys. See, Cootie would have fit this perfectly. Why can't Cootie have been playing? Thorbjorn Olsen's in the field. Maybe he can do it. Kevin Roy's showed up a few times over the past little bit. I think Hisatune has played too well to play. Davis Thompson's going to be in the field again, though. So I thought that was just a fun note to look at. Obviously, it's not predictive in any sort of way. It's more of a storytelling type of stat where you're like, it's not even really a stat. It's just funny to see that guys had not played well previously. And that's what you saw with course history here over the years, was trying to take a look at guys because there's so much water. It led to a lot of variance at this event that guys year over year, 2 bad shots could sink you in a tournament. It just seems like guys don't hit that many bad shots anymore. Ben Griffin has been the best player over the past 6 months coming into this tournament in terms of strokes gained. Let's take a look at the past 2 months. Average strokes gained total. Who is playing the best? Who is in the field this week? Nikolai Højgaard is number 1, followed by Gerard, Lowry, Bridgman, and Blades Brown in his 4 rounds that we've seen from him when he was in the final group at the American Express. He is back this week. Damon got dropped from the field when Berger joined, but then got put back in the field when Michael Kim withdrew. He's here plus 0.44. I didn't realize he had been playing that well. I know he had one really good run somewhere. I think it was the American. No, it was Farmers. Yeah, he had the good run. Made the cut at the American Express, T7 at Farmers, missed the cut in Phoenix. It was really only one good tournament for him, and that's just the way it's crumbling right now. Putnam is back. Putnam had a good run at American Express earlier on in the season. Taking a look at what he's done so far, no one really expected him to play well at Torrey Pines. He's not really geared for Torrey Pines, but it was awesome at the American Express, a shorter tournament. This is a spot where I would take distance, like a distance with a little bit of accuracy over a pure accuracy player, but we do know that he can heat up with his irons. His iron play, even through the swing season, have been very good, and he can pop off and putt pretty well if he needs to. We'll take a look how he's done at the Cog. He was T11 here last year, gained over a stroke per round of this tournament. How had he done at the Honda? Had missed the cut previously at the Honda in 2018 and 2015. Not too concerned about what happened 10 years ago at this tournament, but was T11 last year, so obviously going to have to be a look for us to kick things off. Lipsky, Seamus Power, Christoph Ventura, the birdie detective. Hao Tong is playing. Rasmus, Adam Scott coming off what seems to be a pretty good week at Riviera. There's Ben Griffin. Willie Z is in the field. Pendrith is there again. Sexy Roy, Rogers, Carl Phillips. I mentioned Phillips a little bit earlier. I think I bet him at like 500 to 1 to win at Torrey Pines. I think he made the cut at Torrey Pines, so that's good news. Missed the cut in Phoenix, played awful. Came T38 at Torrey Pines, kind of fell off. Had played pretty well at the American Express, so that's what kind of got me looking up. As I recall, because he ended up winning the next week in Puerto Rico. On that one, I think that was my first hit of the year last year, was Crazy Carl Phillips in Puerto Rico. But I just recall his ball striking was really good last year. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, really struggled on the greens here. The driving was bad. I think a lot of that was final day type stuff. Let's see, off the tee. Now, it was one really bad round 2 driving. He was actually in the positives each of the other 3 rounds, but just lit it up on approach, rounds 2 and rounds 4. So after a struggle, round 1 on approach, gained bigly the other few days, gained around the greens as well. And you can see it was just that final day putting. He was actually positive the other 3 days. It was just horrible on the greens in round 4. That was good enough for me to be like, all right, you could see him lurking to do really well, hence why I really liked him at Puerto Rico. Obviously, he ends up coming through for us. John Perry has been playing pretty well. Max McGreevy, as I mentioned. Also to know with McGreevy, he's been playing in the elevated events along with the regular events, so it's been harder for him to pick up strokes against the field because he's playing against Scotty Scheffler, Rory, and whoever. He's not just playing goober events with the American Express, although American Express and Sony have been kind of the bad two. David Ford and Johnny Kiefer are two guys that I want to talk about. Alex Smalley as well. We can take a look at the Danes, but I think you kind of know the Danes are pretty good. Maybe we'll take a look at Steven Jagabombs too. So first up in the highlight is going to be John Perry. He's over here having gained his tour card from the DP World Tour. Played pretty well last season, has made each of his 4 cuts so far, started getting pretty good on approach at both Farmers and Phoenix. So that's always good news to start looking at. Gained a bunch of strokes putting in Phoenix as well. It should do him well next week. So he's gotten better basically every single week. He popped putting at the Sony. That's why you see that was his best result. But it's nice to see him having played each of the weekends so far in each of the first 4 events that he's played. He'll be underrated coming into this tournament. David Ford, one of the better, he's only got his tour card because of PGA Tour U. So obviously he was one of the better players in college coming out of last year. Can't really chip or putt, but chipping around here, pretty easy. That's always good to see. And maybe he can figure it out with the putter. Obviously, we're dealing with different surfaces at PGA National than we've seen so far this year, but this is what is the most intriguing. This is average per round, by the way. So let's take a look at strokes gained total. He's not a huge hitter, but he generally hits a ton of fairways. Gained off the tee at Sony and American Express. Strokes gained approach has been awesome each of the first 3 tournaments so far. Hasn't really putted well, hasn't really chipped well, but this would be a player that would be on my radar that if he could figure out the putting a little bit, which he did at the Bank of Utah by coming in 3rd place, figured out a little bit at the American Express, came T13. He's a player who's likely to be outside of 100 to 1, that if you can catch a hot putter, we know the approach play is good, the driver is very accurate, which should save him from the water, that David Ford in a tournament like this should be shortlisted. Now, obviously, the guys like Ben Griffin and Brooks, probably not Brooks, but other players, Bridgman, Lowry, players of that regard should be and will be the betting favorites. But this is a tournament where guys from the pack can go win. Johnny Kiefer. Let's take a look at Johnny Kiefer. I like Johnny Kiefer. Obviously, he was the best player on the Korn Ferry Tour a year ago, and we can see so far, the approach numbers are really good. Off the tee is really good. Also, another guy who can't really chip or putt. Some of the Pat Mayo favorites over time can't chip or putt. But you can see approach play really good in Phoenix. Driving awesome at the Farmers. His approach play pretty good at the Farmers. His approach play was excellent at the American Express. Everything was excellent except for the around the green and putting where he lost over 6 strokes combined. At Sony has played the weekend each of the times. It'd be nice to see him pop one of these nice putting rounds like he did at the RSM Classic. It's in there. He has gained strokes putting before. Not so much around the greens, but as we saw again, around the green is very easy here to gain strokes. So hopefully that mitigates the all-world players. Listen, if you chip in a few times, that can skew things. But as long as you're just consistent and you make your 5-footers, if you start missing these greens, but I'm not looking for him to miss greens here. Look at this approach play. It's really good. The driver's good. The approach is good. Guys are hitting over 70% of their fairways or greens in regulation on average. What I'm looking for is him to have an awesome week in these numbers, and all of a sudden we're looking pretty good going into the weekend. So Johnny Kiefer, I don't know what they're going to give us on him. Maybe Houston's a better spot for him. I don't know. But if the price is right and he's 80 to 1 or above, I will be in on him. Alex Smalley is another one that we're looking for right now. Oh, a Duke grad. So we can see that Bermuda's been his worst putting surface over the years, but this is still a bit of overseed. They might even call it Poa Travalis. Maybe that'll be more the next 2 weeks in Orlando and the Players' Championship, but he had a really nice Players' Championship last season. You can see he's been up and down so far this year, but the driving and the approach play, and that's, again, on average, been pretty good. He's putted pretty well so far this season. It's not something that we're used to from Alex Smalley. Turned out a top 20 in a signature event 2 weeks ago at Pebble Beach. I'm not sure what his history has been here. How has he played at the Cog? He was T18, missed the cut the year before. His approach play was abysmal a year ago. That leads me to believe he had one really bad round where he found the water a bunch. Let's see if that would be true. Yeah, round 3. Although he was in the negatives each of the rounds, and it was more of a compounding effort. And listen, he gained on the greens here last year, so that's nothing but good news. I don't know how they're going to price him. He was T55 in 2022 when he played at the Honda Classic as well. So those are a few guys just off the hop to take a look at that have my interest. Now we've done a bit of a deeper dive. I guess David Ford and Johnny Kiefer, and then maybe Alex Smalley would be my favorite of that bunch. I do want to take a look at Daniel Berger as well, because the problems that he has, let's see, Daniel Berger. How's your Berger? This around the green is like truly troubling. I figured that he would get this solved because the putting was really bad and the chipping was really bad, and the putting has started to come around for Daniel Berger. A little bit. Not always, but a little bit. You can see in the first event of the year, he gained a pretty reasonable amount on route to a T6 at the Sony Open. He gained marginally, 0.06 strokes gained putting for a T16 in a stronger field in Phoenix, where he gained 7 strokes on approach. He sucked at Pebble Beach. He was just bad. But look at these chipping numbers. Minus 3.8, 2.3, 0.7. So now you have to start thinking to yourself, because it's easier around here, and this has been the course where he probably has the best course history without ever having won. He lost in a playoff to Patty Harrington in his debut here about 10 years ago, has a pair of other top 5 finishes. He was T25 last year, and this was before the around the green yip started happening. You can kind of see what happened here. So, even just take a look at the years. So last year, it was bad, but most of that was as you just saw, when you go by rounds, in the second half of the year when it's just been gotten. At one point, he's now losing 3/4 of a stroke per round around the greens. That's awful. Now, that's over his past 8 rounds. But 50 rounds is a pretty decent sample. 0.6 per round lost around the greens. All rounds, and then obviously these horrible numbers lately have been affecting that. All rounds in his career, he's slightly below average, meaning he was slightly above average for most of his career, and now he's not. The accuracy has returned. The ball speed is around the same. His approach play has been really good, which is interesting. So last year, he did gain around the greens here and gained 3 strokes on the green. His ball striking was actually a bit lower than you would have thought. He was horrible on the greens here 2 years ago. That's right when he was coming back from his back injury. But again, gained around the greens that time as well. So the hope with Berger. Now, the issue might be with Berger is that he is improperly priced because he's an FSU guy. He's played this tournament well over the years, that all of a sudden they just spike a 40 on him. I don't want to bet Daniel Berger at 40-1. But if they take a look at how he's been playing overall, not great, and they give us like a 66, a 70, a 75, that is me more than willing to burn my money on him, and maybe he chips himself out of the tournament. But before that, the driving has been good in every event so far this year. He spiked twice with his irons already in Phoenix and Sony, and then maybe he can putt a little bit, and hopefully the familiarity with this course and it being easy to chip helps him a little bit around the greens, where he just needs to be even or lose marginally. It's not that big of a deal. Just do what you did at the RSM. Lose 0.28 strokes around the green. Don't hit your approach play like you're the worst guy in the field. Do what you normally do and have your spike here. Then all of a sudden, Berger can be an adequate sleeper for us going into the week. I just wanted to highlight him because he was the late add into the field, and I know that he's going to be a popular name to go around this week. Let's see if anyone has built out a model so far. Oh, look at Vincenzi. Vincenzi got that article written about him in Golf Week. He's coaching basketball in New England. He's writing for Live, taking off around the world. It's like the month of Vincenzi. So let's see what he uses more long-term form than I tend to, but let's just take a look at Matt's model to see who pops up in his right away. He put in par 4 average, strokes gained, ball striking off the tee, total approach. Daniel Berger, number 1 in his model, followed by Gerard, Griffin, Thorbjorn Olesen. So there's an interesting name. Keith Mitchell, Bridgman, Bezadenhout, Homa, Davis Thompson, Adam Scott, Mac Meisner, Dylon, Max McGreevy pops up. As I mentioned before, he had played pretty well here a year ago, so we'll take a little bit more of a deeper dive into him as well. There's Lipsky, Gim Raper. If Gim could ever putt, good Lord, wouldn't it be nice if he could ever putt? We'll take a look at Seamus Power and Mac Meisner as well. I believe the year, maybe Adam Scott ended up winning this event. I thought Jason Day won this event. There was a year where it was Adam Scott, Jason Day, and Sergio, and there was a rain delay. Don't ask me how I remember this. Maybe it was the year Ricky Fowler won. Can't completely remember, but let's take a look into these guys to kick things off. So Max McGreevy is up first. Let's see how he's been doing. Obviously, he believed that he's playing right now. Let's see. Live leaderboard. Well, one of the essential tools that you can use from the rabbit hole. It's only going to be more and more powerful. Let's see. Max McGreevy missed the cut. Didn't play particularly well. His putting was truly awful on average. Lost almost 3 strokes in 2 rounds. The approach play was bad. Not sweating that at all. This is against the best players in the world. Max McGreevy, not one of the best players in the world. But to take a look at how he has been doing overall coming in. This was the first week he had lost on approach since Farmers. Farmers doesn't really correlate with this all that well. He's driving the ball super good. Around the green's been good. Putting's been up and down. So overall, very consistent. And as we saw last year, he was T4 at the Cog. I don't know if he's ever played the Honda. He was cut in his 2 previous ones. So he does not fit the Chris Kirk method. Or he does fit the Chris Kirk method of someone who had played well entering the week, but that's not what we've seen from most of our winners, but pretty adequate so far this year. Nothing pops off the charts, but playing in stronger events than he's used to and playing a lot. Here's Doug Gim. Take a look at the Reaper. He is not spiking with the irons the way that you would want. He's either doing well. Yeah, so he's not in the iron form where you would need Doug Gim, so let's take a hard pass on him. Now watch him win. Seamus Power up next. How has old Seamus been doing? He was T11 at the Farmers. Most of that was chipping and putting. Other than that, he was T31 at the Sony, gained a bunch on approach, lost a bunch driving. The driving, it looks like it had been solved for a bit. So he is actually pretty interesting here because he's rolling it well. Obviously, the chipping has been good. He missed the cut last year at the Cognizant, at the Honda in his career. So he's 0 for 4 in making the cut here. That's not good. Hopefully this improved driving from what we saw late last year and through the swing season can help him through. But his approach play has been really good. The putting has been really good. If he could have just improved his accuracy a little bit, you see the accuracy is way down this year. That does not bode well for him at this course, despite it being above average for most of his career. Mac Meisner has not broken out in the way that I would want him to so far this year, but we can take a look. He's made the cut every time through. He's doing something different well every single tournament. Sometimes I like to see that. Now, obviously, nothing is spiking as putting did last time out in Phoenix. That was good for a top 20. He was cut at the Cog last year and was T53 the year before that. He was truly horrendous. Was that a part of a really bad run for him last year? Let's see. Yeah, it was a part of a just 3 tournament run. Missed in Phoenix, missed in Mexico, missed at the Cog, and then got his life back together a little bit, making the cut at the Players' Championship, and then made a bunch of cuts in a row, and then struggled throughout the course of the year. Then we got to the 3M, something clicked, and then boom, he was off to the races. 2nd at the Wyndham, 14th at Sanderson Farms, a few top 30s through the swing season. Probably not going to be on the card to win this week, old Mac Meisner. Let's take a look at Adam Scott. Has not been playing a ton. Had a chance to shoot the lowest round of his PGA Tour career on Friday at Riviera. That's always nice. He was my write-up in the column last week. And it's funny, I was talking about him. Here's how stupid I can be when it comes to making picks sometimes. I liked Adam Scott coming into the week. As you may recall on this show last week, I said that he would be a bet for me when he opens around 80 to 1 or 100 to 1. Here's the thing. He opened at like 35 to 1. I was like, fuck that. Not betting this goober Adam Scott at 35 to 1. I think he ended up at like 45 to 1 by the end of it. But he was right around like $7,800 on DraftKings. But that outright odd made me so mad that I kind of gave up on him in the week. And for whatever reason, on like Tuesday afternoon, I talked myself into Jason Day for no particular reason instead of Adam Scott because he was double the odds. Turns out he should have been quintuple the odds. It wouldn't make a difference. He came second to last in the tournament, but just that stupid decision. I went through the research last week with you guys on the show. Adam Scott popped up as a great play. I talked myself at him for someone who didn't pop up as a good play, but back-to-back top 10s at this course, and look what he did 3 weeks ago. It was just really stupid on my part. Maybe that's recency bias. I'm taking one bad decision and applying it forward, but I'm saying that I probably should have went with my gut a little bit more. So you can see right here, Adam Scott had played really well at the American. He played well ball striking wise at Sony, American Express, and at the Farmers, and I believe he is doing that same thing this week at the Cognizant Classic. Let's take a look to see if that's actually the case. Obviously, he's doing well at the Cognizant Classic. We'll see how he's doing it at the Cognizant Classic. So let's see, total for the week. There's Adam Scott. He is through 2 holes. He is -9 at the time I'm recording this. Oh, Rory's only 1 back now. Let's go! Let's go, Rory! Why isn't Fitz doing anything? Oh, Fitz -9. Oh, that means he's 2 under through 6. All right. Keep plugging away. If we can get like a Rory first, Fitzpatrick second, what a payday that would be. That would be fantastic. Any of my other guys doing anything? Absolutely not. I have no other of the outrights up there. There's Scheffler. I bet him live top 10. He's like in the realm now in 20th place. What would top 10 be right now? Top 10 would be, he's only 5 back. If top 10 can stay around like -9 into tomorrow, the pins are going to be in a much more difficult position. Maybe Scotty can rally again, shoot 6 under, -11 might be good enough. I haven't parlayed with Gino over in Thailand as well. So if she wins, obviously I win a big bet. I made that live on the show with Keith this week in the Final Word on Golf. But I also live parlayed her with a Scotty top 10 and bet the Scotty top 10 by itself too. So interesting to see. So back to Adam Scott. Gaining a bunch off the tee. He's putting this week. He's chipping this week and slightly above average in approach. I mean, I don't know what he's going to end up at. I'd almost rather he kind of flame out here over the final 2 rounds so we end up with a better number on him for the rest of the week. But it's interesting to see. Did he play this last year? He did not. He's not played it since it's become the Cognizant Classic. He won it in 2016. So I think this is the tournament that I'm thinking of. Like Sergio Day. We'll see. We'll see if this is the one. Let's go down to 2000. Oh, this tournament, the 2021 Honda Classic with Matt Jones running away with it. He shot an opening around 60, I think. And he just ended up winning by a billion. I think Brandon Hagee was in second. Yeah, he was in second. There you go. Brendan Steele, CT Pan. This was the most boring tournament I ever recall paying attention to. It was just a runaway. He shot 61 in the first round, and he just ran away from everyone the entire time. It was, like I said, the most boring thing I've ever seen in my life. 2016, yeah, this was a year. Maybe I was wrong about days. Scott, Sergio, Justin Thomas, 1, 2, 3. Remember the days when -9 would win this tournament? Look at it, -9, -8, -6, -9. I don't want to see -17 up there. -19, that's sad. But that's what we're in store for right now. There's Ricky and Horschel and John send in the putts, as Cam would say. Luke List. I almost had a Luke List winner here as well. Or what year was that? That was the Justin Thomas year. 2018. Beat Luke List in a playoff. See, this was a fun year. Look at some of these names that used to be here. Jamie Lovemark. What a throwback. There's Griot. Maybe we can bet on Griot this week. I have no idea how Griot is doing, by the way. Let's go take a look to see if we can find out how Emiliano Griot is doing. Those best ball teams I was talking about could really be enhanced if Griot has a good week this week. Let's take a look at Griot. How you been doing, Emiliano? You learned how to putt at one point in your life. That has gone back the other way so far this season. He's been horrible this year. Had a good Farmers. That was about it. It's funny because he had solved his putting woes for most of last year and each of the past 2 years. He was running hot and cold. Now he's just running cold. Maybe a trip to Florida can figure that out for him. We should probably start building a model. We're pretty deep into this show to start building the model. I haven't done that yet. You know, I don't even really know what I want to look for here. So we're past 2 months, strokes gained total. So we'll call that recent form. Strokes gained, recent form. Always good to look at recent form. Coming in, I don't think that course history is going to do us much good here. But one thing I will look at is the flow ride, a Florida course region. I'll apply that. Obviously nothing for the past 2 months. And we'll go past 3 years in Florida. Maybe there are guys that just happen to be better players in Florida than anywhere else. Past 3 years, Danny Walker, Shane Lowry, Rasmus Niergaard Peterson. Don't even know what event that was. Last year's Valspar? It's the only thing I can think of where he would have played. Yeah, last year's Valspar, T22, Rasmus Niergaard Peterson. If dude could putt, he would be a real problem. Like, check out these tee to green numbers, these off the tee numbers. He's kind of geared for this course, honestly. What is his accuracy? His accuracy is a bit low, but he can dial it back off the tee here and improve that. If he could just putt, we'd be in business. Figure it out, RNP. Bridgman, Clanton, Taylor Moore, the Smother Man. People have been loving betting Smotherman earlier on in the year. There's Chris Kirk. Obviously, he won here. Stephen Fisk, who has a win at Sanderson Farms. It's funny to see him pop up here because he put in a good run in Puerto Rico a year ago. Obviously, Puerto Rico, not in Florida, although in American territory, as many apparently Americans found out during the Super Bowl. But he won. He was like third in Puerto Rico last year. I really liked him. I called him my new Luke List because he just cannot make 3-foot putts. And it's funny that he ended up winning at Sanderson Farms, a place where Luke List had popped in the past as well. But Luke List has popped here too. So maybe Stephen Fisk is a especially good look here. I would expect him to open at like 150 or 200 to 1. Willett, Rye, Ben Griffin, the guy who sits on his hand to make his hand numb, the stranger, Jimmy Stanger plays well, Yagabombs. I really worry about Steven Jager's miss left off the tee because that's getting real wet. As wet as you want to get is where Steven Yeager might do off the tee here. Higo, who's been horrible this year, same as Kevin Yu, has been bad this year. Keith Mitchell's been playing a little bit better, obviously a former winner at this event. Gerard has a pretty good pop-up here. So we'll throw in Florida. I mean, we're not going to weight it a ton. Florida plus duh, past 3 years. Oh, by the way, I'm going to TGL in 2 weeks' time, the week of Bay Hill. I'm going to be there on the Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm looking to play some afternoon golf on the Wednesday. If you're in the Jupiter area, if you're going to be around, email Mayo Media Inc. or message me on Instagram. See if we can hook up. I'd love to tee it off with some people. I got some stuff to do at 11 a.m. on that Wednesday, but I should be free by like 2 p.m. I think we could sneak in 18 if we find a good spot to play. So if you're around, let me know. So we've thrown those two into the model thus far. I want to make sure that I already have driving distance in there and driving accuracy in there. So that's good news because those are two things I do want to weight because I want to see how those end up playing out. I'm going to weight distance more than accuracy, but I'll make it like a 70-30 split between those two to take a look at it. Now, we need to get our iron play dialed in here. Who are the best players on approach? We saw the big bucket from 150 to 175 yards, so we don't need to go past 3 years. Let's just go, let's go past 9 months. We'll call it a baby's term, and we'll get rid of Florida. Chuck that out. Strokes gained approach leaders. Oh, the Smother Man. It's only 10 rounds, but that's why he's going to rate out pretty well. There's old Nikolai up there, Marty Dew, Shane Lowry, Chris Kirk continues to play. I haven't seen how Chris Kirk has done, honestly. Neither is Zalatoris. Zalatoris is in this field. Let's take a look at Zalatoris. Fence and Change putters, and he's sponsored by my sponsor, CoolBet.com. If you're in Canada, outside of Ontario, use CoolBet.com. Fastest payouts in the biz, and their site doesn't go down like some of the other ones that people were using over this weekend. Chris Kirk. Let's see, Chris Kirk, how you been doing? Don't remember at all if he should be in the field for the at Riviera right now. I thought he was in. Maybe he wasn't. I thought he had played himself into these tournaments. So no, he didn't play in that event, so he should be good. And he is good to play this week. Approach play has been excellent so far this year. The driving has been sparse, which is unlike him. The chipping has been unusually bad. And then his putting has been bad. There was one good one when he was actually cut. So no good results this year, but this approach play is awesome. Get him back to some familiar confines here. He's made the cut each of the past 2 years. Obviously, he won the Honda year before that, T7, T25. So a lot of experience at this course, including a win. And the approach play has been really good so far, even if the driving has been pretty bad. We're taking a look at Will Zalatoris right now. Zal was good at the American Express. He was dog shit at the Farmers. I really don't know what to make of that. I don't think that it depends on the number. They just don't give us a fair number on Zalatoris. It's usually double what it should be, but maybe we get 100-1. Then I would be somewhat interested if that comes in 100-1. So what we've seen from Svensson so far this year is he can't drive, he can't chip, and he can't putt. But the irons are really, really good for him so far this season. I think that he's played well here in the past. Let's see. Made the cut in 3 years. He played it at the Honda, including a T9. At the Cog, he's been cut both times after losing 5 strokes putting in 2 rounds a year ago, but gained over 4 strokes tee to green. So he is comfortable with this course. Whether that matters or not for him based on his recent form, we shall see. Strokes gained approach. Let's throw that in. SG approach. SH approach. Yeah, it's all the same thing. SG approach. We'll add that into the model right now as well. Then we'll go to those proximity ranges. Most guys playing from the fairway here, but overall proximity, 150 to 200. Who are the leaders in this over the last 9 months? Jimmy Stanger. Okay, maybe Jimmy Stanger is first round leader. I've seen his name twice. That's usually good enough for me to bet someone at 150 to 1 as first round leader. So over the past 5 months, that's 1 round for him. That's weighted, by the way, in this time frame. So maybe not. Sample size should mean something here. We can always, two things you can do in the rabbit hole. You can hide the salary to make things bigger. You can also put in a minimum of rounds. Let's just call it a minimum of 8 rounds, if nothing else, just to throw some people off the scent here. So 150 to 200 is the key range that we're looking at. Adrien Dumont de Charret, which is, I don't think is actually how you pronounce his name. Let's see. Adrien Dumont de Charret, de Chazart. as they probably call him in Florida. We'll see. The Belgian, the big bomb in Belgian. So he's number one there. Davis Thompson. Rico still holds up there. Rico Hoey, Clanton, Griot. There's Eckroat. Still like Eckroat. Patrick Rogers rating out pretty well. Wacky Valimaki. Celinda, one of the more accurate players and very good wedge player as well. Thorbjornsen, Nico. Berger still popping up. Nicky Dunlap is back after withdrawing at the American Express. Kevin Yu, Smalley, Matt Wallace, and Haotong. Could be a really nice Haotong course. Johnny Kiefer was another one who was good in that range. So we'll call this 150 to 200 long-term. By long-term, we'll call it 9 months. And then we'll just look at this year as well. So past 2 months, best players in this range. We'll call it Doug Gim is the worst player in this range. We'll shrink this down to, we'll get rid of the rounds requirement right now. It's funny that, is he still the worst? Yeah. Malnati, Sargent, the Swedish dentist Pontus Nyholm, who continues to be in field somehow, I have no idea, is terrible at this. Gim is still down there. Riley, Seamus Power, Rasmus Højgaard, my guy, Crazy Carl, he's down here as well. Higo, Hostler, Takumi Kanaya, Nakajima, Adam Svensson, Cam Davis, Camillo, all in the worst bucket. Best bucket, Morpheus, Patrick Fishburne, there's Stanger, Nick Dunlap, Clanton. Maybe it's Clanton rebound season. Maybe it's good enough for him. Gerard has been really good here. I think Gerard is going to be very popular. He's just going to look really good in all the stats. Brooks has actually been good from this bucket as well. So is Griot, despite being awful this year. Nikolai, Meisner. There's David Ford, who we talked about earlier. Johnny Kiefer pops up again. Haotong, Mitchell. So we'll call this short term. 150 to 200 short term. Chuck that into the model. So what else are we missing here? We're not going to put in anything around the greens because we found that was easy. Let's go to putting. We can take short and long-term putting. We can look at Bermuda putting as well. We'll try to go to past 12 months strokes game putting. Chuck that in. Putting past 12 months. Just to give us a sense of this, we're also going to look back at 3 years Bermuda putting. We'll just say Florida putting. Just to give ourselves an out on this front. So Florida putting last 3 years. Will we call it minimum? We have some guys that are like Paul Waring only has 2 rounds to go from. Vince Whaley, Jesper Svensson, Jacob Bridgman, Aaron Wise. Oh my God, Aaron Wise is in this field. Chairman Mao. There's Ben Griffin. There's Joe Highsmith. Big shocker, he's up there. Rogers, Smotherman. This is always fun to compare to overall putting too. So putting, Florida, over the years. I think that's good enough to start taking because I already had those distance models in. I want to reset my factor as well. Is there anything in here that we should be taking a look at in the conditions? We can see scoring. You know what? Scoring conditions, very easy to easy. That's one thing that I will throw in, and we'll take a look at overall strokes gained total, and we'll go to the past year, guys who just beat up on easier courses versus guys who don't. Because this now, I think we need to go with the trends of the past 2 years and play this like it's an easy course. So SG easy, and throw that in, add that to the model, and now we can create something out of nothing to see how we're doing here. I will call this Mayo Cog Show. If you're a sub to the Rabbit Hole, and if you're sub to Fantasy National, you have access to the Rabbit Hole. You have access to both those sites, but you can just go under the expert report where I pulled up Vincenzi's earlier. You can see expert models up here to find everything. You can find, let's see, again, there's Joe's, there's mine from the research show that I did last week for Riv, and we can always pull that in to see how I'm doing. I think it's been pretty good. Don't have time for that right now because we're going to build out this model, and I will save that as an expert report as we go through it. All right. How do we want to allocate this? I want guys that make a ton of birdies, guys that hit the ball pretty close, tend to do well. We'll just call regular strokes gained approach. We'll call that 20%, and we'll go 10% for those 2 key ranges. You know what? That's probably too much. We're probably over-indexing that. We'll go 5 and 5 to give, and we'll go 25 for strokes gained approach. We can always play around with this earlier. So I said that I wanted driving distance to be about, we'll call it, there we go, 75% driving distance, 5% accuracy, 15% driving distance, 5% accuracy. So a 3-to-1 ratio on distance over accuracy, but still accounting for that accuracy. Recent form, love me some recent form. We'll call that 15%. Past 3 years in Florida, not necessary. We'll call that 5%. Putting the past 12 months, we'll call 10. Putting in Florida, we'll call 5. And then strokes gained total at easy courses, we'll call that 10%. And you can always go back and play around with this when you want to go in. You can always add more stats. You can give the weightings anything else that you want. We're going to save and generate this model and see what it tells us. Ben Griffin, all right, the guy that's probably the betting favorite, although he's not playing great golf right now, is in first in this. Nikolai Højgaard, Ryan Gerard. I didn't realize Bezadenhout was playing so well. Probably should take a look at Bez. I saw him pop up in Vincenzi's model. Now he's popping up in mine. Why? Why is he doing this to me? I hate betting Bez. He's been terrible each of the past 2 weeks. No shocker there. Was okay at the American Express. Was good at Sanderson Farms. What is he doing well exactly? He must be just great from that key range that I looked at. Where is he popping out here? So he's good in strokes gained total. What was this filter the last 2 months? Okay, great. Good for him. 18th in, Florida performance. Yeah, in past 3 years in Florida, he's been good. Very good from that 150 to 200 bucket, both short and even longer term, and one of the better putters out there. Okay, that makes sense. He gets hurt by distance a lot, whereas someone like Nikolai, good in distance, bad in driving. Who are the best of kind of both? Adam Scott, great at distance, really good in accuracy for the time period that we've looked at. Driving accuracy, and that was just the past 2 months. If you wanted to widen that to the past 12 months. Maybe that is a better representation of what we're looking for, but this is what we're rolling for now. Obviously, Lowry. So after Bezadenhout, number 5, Rasmus Højgaard. So both Højgaards inside the top 5. Then we see Bridgman, Lowry, Meisner, Scott, and Valimaki. Then we're into Homa, Rogers, Putnam, Hautong, Rasmus, Niergaard, Peterson. Then 16 through 20, Kiefer, Mitchell, the Smother Man, Christoph Ventura, and my guy, Sexy Roy, Kevin Roy, Hodges. There's Eric Cole. Berger, Kirk are down there. John Perry, who we brought up at the very beginning, is number 23. Griot is still 28th. Olesen is 29 for me. Thorbjornsen, Ekro, Michael Brennan is up here as well. Could be a good Michael Brennan course to really get it going. You can see he's first in distance, and he's 69th in accuracy, which is not only very nice, it's still pretty high for this field. It's just below average. So, average accuracy, good off the tee. Pendrith plays these shorter courses really well over time, too, and he's pretty good in Florida. So I'd be looking to catch a really good Pendrith number if you can find it. It's time to guess some odds for the Cognizant Classic. I do think that Ben Griffin is going to be the betting favorite. He did end up making the cut. And then on the second hole on Saturday, he hit it way left, almost onto the range at Riviera. And then he said that it was his ball that was stuck in the net on the range, but no one could identify it. So he tried to get it down by throwing his umbrella at it. But then he got his umbrella stuck in the net too. It's a hilarious clip if you do want to go see it. But Ben Griffin's probably going to be the betting favorite here. I'm going to guess he is 14 or 16 to 1. I think he'll be followed very closely by Adam Scott and Jacob Bridgman and Shane Lowry. I'm guessing that one of those guys will be 18 or so to 1, and the other two will be 20 or 22 to 1. I think those are going to be the big four. After that level, Brooks will be in there just based off name value alone. Thorbjornsen will be there. Max Homa will probably be there. Both of the Højgaards will be lurking around that range. Aaron Rye will be lurking around that 25 to 35 to 40 range as well. There's probably someone I'm missing as a part of this, but I think that those are going to be the betting favorites this week. And I do think that there's going to be value on some of the guys deeper down the field, be it in that each way market that we talked about, the top 3 each ways, or just an overall top 5, top 10 market, whatever it might be. These are the tournaments where we're probably going to have to try to make most of our money this year. So if we can get a long shot winner, this would be most likely the tournament where it would happen. All right, smash like, give me your winner from everyone I've talked about down in the comment section right now. I'll be back with Jeff on Monday to review Riv, make our picks. Then we're doing DraftKings once again with Blickle. Then we got Keith. Then I got my live chat 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday evening to talk you through your lineups. Any questions you got, please leave a rating and review on the podcast on Apple or Spotify. Subscribe to Mayo Media Network. Join the free newsletter. Join BetspertsGolf.com. And I see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!